Okay, welcome everyone. Parsha Shmos. I want to talk about a topic we've discussed a little bit before, but I want to go a little bit deeper to try to understand it. So, in Shmos, we have the famous discussion where Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling Moshe to go and save the Jewish people, and Moshe seems to refuse and doesn't want to do it. Argues for 7 days. At the end of that time, it says in the pasuk, "Vayichar Hashem." Hashem got angry at him. Now, why did he get angry at him? Apparently, he was doing the right thing. He was being humble. And as a matter of fact, for the 7 days, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Only at the very end is it that Hashem gets angry at him. Now, why did Moshe say no? A lot of different explanations. Some Farshim say that because he was not going to bring them in as their final redeemer. He said, bring the final redeemer in. There's other explanations. Moshe, in his humility, said, anyone's better but me. And then there is what Rashi brings down that Moshe said to Hashem, send the one you usually send. Send the one you always send, which is Aaron. Moshe did not want to take the honor over Aaron. And that's the simple way to understand it, that, he didn't want to insult his older brother. And then the pasuk comes back. Hashem says, no, Aaron's going to come and see you. He'll be happy in his heart. You think he'll be upset. He won't be. So it sounds like just like, kind of good midos that Moshe has. We need to understand it a little more deeply. What was Moshe's refusal? Why did he refuse to go to the point where Hashem got angry with him, where the Gemara questions, was there a negative repercussion to this? Right? There is a argument, because the Gemara in Zvachim says that whenever it says Vayichar Hashem, Hashem got angry, there is a roshem, there is a response, there is some input that happens, except for in this case. And the Gemara there has a different opinion. One opinion says there was no negative result of this anger of Hashem, and the other opinion says no, there is. What is the negative result? The negative result is that it said, Hashem says to Moshe that your brother Aaron the Levi, I know he knows how to speak. You don't want to go. Your brother Aaron the Levi, I know he knows how to speak, and he will be your mouthpiece. Says the Gemara, why does it say Aaron Levi? We know he's a Levi already. Why do you tell me he's a Levi? It says this was the Roshem, this was the repercussion that Hashem said, if you wouldn't have argued with me so much, you would have been the Kohen and he would have stayed the Levi. But since you argued with me and you changed the situation, now Aaron, who is supposed to be the Levi, he will become the Kohen. Okay, so that is an incredible change of the situation. And the question is, what does it mean? Was that Hashem's like, oh, you were humble was good, and now it's too much, and now you lose out. You were going to be the Kohen, and now you lost it. Sorry. It's as if it's kind of like, as if it's like sort of, rubbed in Moshe's face in the sense that, you're not going to be the Kohen anymore, and Aaron will be. He was going to be the Levi. Okay. Now, the next thing that's really strange is Hashem tells Moshe that you're going to go to Paro and you're going to say to set the Jews free, and he will not listen. He will not listen until the very end of the Makkas, until you're going to kill his firstborn. So Moshe knows the plan. He knows the plan. Going to Paro, and it's not going to work. He's not going to listen. And then Hashem will show his wonders and miracles through Paro and show that he is the creator of the world. He runs the world, and he is Kol Yochel, could do everything. And that's Hashem showing his godless in the world and revealing himself. So Moshe knows the plan. So the question is, when he goes to Paro and Paro says, no, you want to send the Jews? I will not send the Jews. I don't know what Hashem is. I won't send the Jews. And not like that, they won't get straw anymore. They'll have to go and make their own bricks, and it toughens up. Moshe goes back to Hashem and he says, Lama Hari Os Lama Zeh, why did you make it bad for the Jewish people? Lama Zeh Shaltani, why did you send me? which seems to be very, very inappropriate for the tzaddik Moshe to be complaining. And it's hard to say that it wasn't a shortcoming, because the response Hashem says to him says in 2 verses later, Hashem said to Moshe, "You will atah. Now you will see what I'm doing to Paro." Rashi says that you'll see this, but because you complained, you're not going to see the redemption of the kings of Canaan. You will not see the conquering of the land of Israel. Now, although this decree was not sealed, but the beginning of it was there already, that Moshe was not going to be leading them into Eretz Israel, into the Geula. So obviously he did something apparent, seemingly something wrong. And then this next week's parasha starts with the words of Hashem, Vayedaber Elokim el Moshe. Elokim spoke to Moshe, and Rashi says he spoke to him angrily. He says, why did you argue with me? You know, I sent you, and you're complaining. He said, why did you make a bad with Jewish people? And even the Siddich Chum says something you can't say it. If he didn't say it, we could never say something. He says there was an aspect seemingly of Moshe who was chas al kvod atzmo. That Moshe is a place where he seemed to be concerned about his own position, his own honor. Why'd you send me? I went there and I look like an idiot. I went there and I told Bavar. He said no. And so the Siddich Chamim seems to imply that there really was some type of lacking, because Moshe looked bad in this whole process. So that needs a lot of explanation, because Moshe, who is the Raya Mehemna, he is the true shepherd of Israel. What does it mean? He cares about his honor. What does that mean? All right, so let's understand this dynamic from the burning bush, from the sneh, why Moshe is fighting so much, and what it means. Hashem then says to him that he gets angry at him, apparently for acceptable humility until now. Additionally, that Aaron should be the leader. I mean, you know, well, what was that about, and why did he get angry, and what was the negative repercussion, and was there? Aaron was going to be the Cohen, Levi, now he's the Cohen. What does that mean? And then why did Moshe actually not go with the game plan when Hashem said, you go to Paro, tell him this, and then he'll say no, and all the miracles will happen, plagues will happen, and Moshe comes back. So what's going on here? Okay, let's understand. So he discusses many times, there is a dynamic in the world of a battle between shalom and emes, peace and truth. As a matter of fact, the Medrash says that when Hashem came to create Adam, he, so to speak, consulted with the different spiritual forces that represented these different traits. And the ones of the trait of chesed says, yeah, create man, he does chesed. The trait of tzedek, of righteousness, create man, he does righteousness. But it says the trait of the angel of truth and the angel of peace said, no, because man is always fighting. It's always conflict. There's no shalom. And he doesn't say the truth. It's the emes. So they opposed. Now, emes and shalom are very significant traits. Shalom is called the Shem Hashem, is the name of God. And just to explain it conceptually a second, when we look at, let's say, the heavens, the Shamayim is a conjugation of Eish and Mayim, fire and water. And we say, Shalom, Hashem makes peace above, he will make peace with us. Meaning that peace is a very, very difficult thing, because you're taking two things that are apparently opposite. You know, to make peace when you have someone you agree with, it's not hard. When things seem to be apparently opposite, fire and water, to bring those two together in a way of shalom is very difficult. It requires that you expand beyond the limitation of these two things. So if I have, let's say, you know, like, for example, you have a painting that's two-dimensional. So when you look at it from a three-dimensional perspective, you're outside of the painting. So similarly, when I look at fire and water, and there are two things that are opposed in this world, the only way to really to combine them is to be above them, where I see a different whole reality that could combine the two. And therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu, who is beyond the reality that we understand or live in, or in existence, is existence, um, can put the two polar opposites together. So Shalom is called one of the names of Hashem. Now, Emes, truth, is actually a little bit different. Emes, it says, is called the Chosem Hashem, the signature of Hashem, which means it doesn't have it's a sign. It's like a signature. It's the end. It's a stamp. But it's not called the name Hashem. What is the difference? So a signature means that what's happening is that I can't represent the whole thing, but it's a stamp. It's just a mark. Because in this world, emes is nederes. Emes is missing. The Talmud says this is alma de shikra. This is a world of lies. That we live in a world that is the whole challenge of the world. The way the world is structured is that there is the illusion that conceals truth. Right? And it says, and then Hashem sent threw Emes down to the ground. He brought Emes down. Emes, Eretz Titzma, comes out from the earth, meaning that Hashem took Emes, which was above the way people could function, and put it in the earth, gave us the Torah. But it's very, very, very hard to function always on the level of Emes. Very, very hard, because that's not the world we live in. Now, we have a question now when we say, when Shalom and Emes come to loggerheads, what will win? What do you do? Right? So, I always say to people, like, when I was a kid in camp, and, my mother-in-law Shalom would say, "Did you miss me?" So, you're, 15-year-old kid in camp, you're having fun. You're not really thinking about your mother so much. So the truthful answer is no, I really haven't thought about my parents, and I'm having a lot of fun. But that's not Shalom. So what do you say? When you're in this battle between Emes and Shalom, if you say the truth, you will break Shalom, which wins. Now, we're used to saying the answer that Shalom wins in this world, but that's not really so simple. That is actually a machlok, an argument between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. We see many places where they actually bring this argument to the fore, but that is an old argument, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Right? The commentaries say that argument is the same argument as this. So, for example, one of the classic places where it's brought is the discussion of Kates and Rat. How do you dance in front of the bride? So, what they used to do when the people would get married, they would sing and dance before the bride, and they would elevate the status of the bride in the eyes of the chosen, of the groom, and that way bring out love and this and that. So, what do you say? So, Beis Hillel said, "Oh, you should sing what we sing today, the beautiful, beautiful bride, the most beautiful bride in the world." Comes along Beis Shammai and says, "Well, wait a minute. What happens? She's not so beautiful. How can you lie? You got to move away from lies. So you can't say she's beautiful. She's not. So Beis Shammai says you got to find the beautiful thing about her and say that. Stick with the truth and say what's true. You cannot play around with truth. As it says, it doesn't say don't lie in the Torah. It says midvar sheker tirchak. Run away, distance yourself from a lie. You got to stay away from it. But wait, that's a problem. So you're gonna sing the song, instead of saying beautiful bride, you say, whoa, she's got a beautiful pinky nail on her left hand. Okay, so she's not an idiot. She's going to say, wait a minute, they're praising me on my pinky nail, on my left hand. What is the implication about everything else about me? It's going to be insulting. It's a lie. Okay, what can you do? You can't say it, according to Beit Shammai. Now, this is what Beit Shammai understands is the obligation of emes. It's called truth will uproot the mountains. You can't play around with truth. You take the word emes, aleph, mem, taf. So the sages tell us that Emes is the first letter of the Torah, the middle letter of the Torah, and the last letter of the Torah, which means many things. One is that truth needs to go from beginning, middle to end. Real truth is eternal. You can't have a reality, something that's true, that is not everlasting. That's it's a fad. It comes in. So okay, it's not real emes. So truth has a beginning, middle to end. But also, what happens is that truth is very hard to come by. It's the farthest you can be from each other, beginning, middle to end. While the word sheker, a lie, is 3 letters in a row, and they are just flipped around a little bit, right? The shin kuf resh really is kuf resh shin in the order of the alphabet, just switched around one little thing, and that means that lies are very common. So I can say about this pen is, I could say it's a dog, it's a cat, it's a horse. I can say a million lies. I can only say one thing what it really is, and I can really identify it. So truth is hard to come by. Sheker is common. Truth, it says Aleph, the men, the top stand on 2 legs. They all have a firm base. Truth stands strong. Sheker, the shin, which is written, as the Arizal says, is written on 1 leg. The kuf is on 1 leg, the resh on 1 leg. The word sheker, lie, is on 1 leg. It falls over easily. The Maral says further, emes, if you take the letters, because there's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, but there's 27 when you count the ends of letters. So it says you take from the Aleph to the Mem, there's 13 letters. And then from the Mem to the Taf, there's 13 letters. 13 is the numerical value of Gematria of Echad, of 1. There is 1 truth. And moreover, if you take away the little Aleph, the ineffable sound that has no sound. Aleph is the only letter in the Bible has no sound at all. You remove that. It's the letter 1. It's the beginning. It's the no sound. You just take away the Aleph. You're left with mace, death. So Beis Shammai say you need to go and tell the Kala, beautiful left pinky nail. Beis Hillel say no. It's not exactly a lie either. Because since the groom chose this woman, he obviously sees beauty in her. And therefore, the beauty that he is perceiving is true. It may not be objective to everyone else, but since there is that aspect, that's good enough. You could say it. There's truth to that also. It may not be the ultimate, but when you're in balance with Shalom and Emes, according to Beis Hillel, Shalom is going to win. And that's why that is the halacha. Shalom, we bend the truth a little bit for the sake of peace, is according to Beis Hillel. According to the commentators, the Rashba says that's not going to Beit Shammai, it's going to Beis Hillel. So there's certain cases, and they're all the same. They're all variations of Shalom. If it's going to be haughtiness, if you're going to tell, they say, oh, do you know this? Yeah, I'm an expert in this field. So that brings arguments, it brings bad feelings. So it's okay. So you can say, I looked at it a little bit. There's certain cases where I'm allowed to go. It's not sneers to mention it. To say something, I could demur, I could bend it a little bit, because Shalom, truth, is going to win over peace. That is the opinion of Beis Hillel, and that is the halacha. That is what we do today, because we live in a world of lies. So you gotta find a way to navigate in this world. This world doesn't look the way it really is. Okay, it looks like Esav is the firstborn and he is the goal of creation, and it's not true. So Yaakov's got to deal with a world of lies to be able to navigate it. And this is it's a pasuk. It says in Ikesh Tapel, when a person is dealing with a deceiving person, you're not supposed to lie, because when you lie, you taste the taste of lying. You still taste the taste of stealing. If you steal from a thief, you still taste the taste of stealing. But you also at the same time can't be an idiot that if a guy is going and he is deceitful, you have to find out how to deal with him, which is what Yaakov said about dealing with the thief love. And I got to find a way to deal with him. I'm in a world of lies. I got to navigate. This argument of Beis Shammai's Hillel really is the root of why Moshe wanted to send Aaron. The Sfas Emes says that Moshe wanted to send Aaron because Aaron's trait was Shalom, was peace. Moshe's trait was Emes, was truth. And therefore Moshe said, if you send me, then the leader of the people is the system by which the people function. If they have to function through the MS system, how many people will be lost? But if you send Aaron, who is the person of Shalom, he'll elevate everyone. It's better to send Aaron. That's what Moshe was saying. So it wasn't only that he loved his brother and he was humble, it was all true, but he also understood for the Jewish people, he held this was not the best thing. It was better to send the person, a man of the people. Moshe, it says when he dies, the wise men, the elders, the Anoshim, the people, the Rosh Hashuvim, the important people, they cried. When Aaron dies, it's called Beis Yisrael. Everyone died. Because why? Because Aaron was Ohev Shalom, Rodav Shalom. He loved peace and he made peace. And therefore, he related to everyone. Moshe, not everyone got what Moshe was talking about. Moshe brings the Torah from above down below. He's called the Shishvim de Malki. He's called the escort of Hashem, so to speak. When the bride and groom marry, there's escorts, there's accompaniment that the bride has and the groom has. So Moshe is bringing from Hashem's side, so to speak. He's bringing the Torah down to us. Aaron's bringing the people up to Hashem. And the two are necessary. But Moshe said, don't send me. And therefore, for the first 7 days, that was a very good claim. It was, you care about the Jewish people, you're humble. But when Hashem says that this is what I want, this is the way the world should work, at a certain place you say, okay, no, I don't get it. But seemingly it's better the other way, but this is what Hashem wants. Okay, this is what I'll do. That's also why Moshe complains. When Hashem says to Moshe, you're going to Paro, and you're going to say the Jews going to say no, Moshe thought, okay, I'll say no, but he won't make it worse. He now made it worse. He went and said, you won't even have straw. And the decrees got worse once Moshe entered the situation. Moshe said, you know what that is? It's because of me. Because my trait is truth. Emes Akars are hard. The truth will uproot the mountain. And therefore, they have to function according to me. And things are getting worse. There was a man of peace like Aaron, who was the one who would bring out the shalom. Then it would be easier, it'd be more gentle. It would be a way that would work for everybody. That was the argument. The Meshech Chochmah is an amazing thing. He says that Moshe was misgalgel. The Shammai means that the mission of Moshe was misgalgel in Shammai. And Aaron was Nisgalgel, his mission is Shammai. We're talking about this Nisgalgel came back in the form of Hillel. And that's why Hillel's famous statement is, be of the students of Aaron. Be made Talmidei Aaron. Oh, have Shalom, Rodev Shalom, love, peace, Shalom, and chase after it. That was the trait. And that was the discussion. And that's why Moshe said, Lame Rosa, why'd you make it bad? Because you sent me. And me means that it's going to be tougher. It's going to be by the strict rules of the law. No easing into it. This idea right now has a lot of incredible implications for what it was. So Moshe now didn't want to go. He said, why did you send me? As we mentioned before, some of the commentaries say there was an element of maybe like a sense of chassav for atzmo, which we can't even say, but like Moshe felt bad about himself that, hey, I went out there and I messed, and now it looks bad. And so there was a place in Moshe where there was the genuine concern of the Jewish people. That's better than Aaron, but then there seems to be maybe concerned a mixture of this in this right now, where he is now concerned how he looks. That is why in the beginning of this parasha, Hashem gets angry at next week's parasha. Hashem gets angry at Moshe and says to him, "What are you complaining about?" Moshe, though, throughout his career as a leader of Jews, he's going to show and rectify that even in the very beginning, his intention was only for good. Where do you see that? When Moshe finally says in the sin of the golden calf, he says, if you're not going to save them, erase me from the book. Moshe gives his life up for the Jewish people. So there's no greater sense of I'm doing it for someone. It's not for myself, because he wanted to give his own existence up for the Jewish people. Erase him from the book. Remove him. That was the ultimate tikkun. I don't want to say rectification, but it actually was legal. It showed retroactively that Moshe's intention was always for the Jewish people. And that's why an amazing thing. It says that Moshe was erased from the book. He said, I erased him from the book, so he's got to be erased from the book someplace. Where is he erased from the book? There's one parsha where Moshe, since he was born, his name does not appear. Once Moshe is born in Shmos, his name is in every parsha except for one. Which parsha? Parshas Tetzaveh. Parshas Tetzaveh is the parsha Hashem commands Moshe to tell Aaron to wear the clothes of the Kohen, the Chavod Tiferes, for beauty and for honor. And therefore, Moshe is not mentioned there. It's not an insult. It's because now that Aaron is going to change reality and become the Kohen, so Hashem, so to speak, doesn't want to put it in his Moshe's face that now I'm mentioning Moshe's name because the parsha of the Kohanim, which is now represented by Aaron, is the place where Moshe doesn't appear. He's hidden because the switch happens that Aaron becomes the Kohen. So in Parshas Tetzaveh, where it is about the clothing of the Kohen, the Chavod Tiferes for beauty and for honor, and grandeur, that is where Moshe is concealed. However, the amazing thing is that Moshe, in a certain sense, although he's concealed to the observable reality, in the hidden reality, he's there more than ever. Why? Because the parsha starts that you command Aaron, which is like a person who's speaking to his close confidant. Another parsha says Hashem spoke to Moshe, which is like the third person. Hashem spoke to Moshe. Moshe is writing his own name, but Hashem is dictating to Moshe. Now it's even more dear. It's you, Moshe Tetzaveh. So even though his name doesn't appear, he's removed from the book in the place of the Kohen because he's no longer the Kohen. It still is you. Hashem speaking to Moshe peh peh, face to face, mouth to mouth. Hashem speaking to him. And not only that, Moshe is completely hidden in the parsha. If you take what's called the nistar, every letter in Hebrew has a way to spell it out. So Moshe is mem shin hey. You spell it out. Mem is mem mem, spells mem. Shin is shin yud nun, shin, and hey is hey aleph. If you take the full spelling out of each letter of Moshe's name, remove the mem shin and hey, the way Moshe's name is spelled, you're left what's called the nelam, the hidden part, the other part of Moshe's name, the hidden part which spells out the letters of each one of his names. That adds up to 101, right? Mem is mem mem. Take away one mem is mem. Shin is shin yud nun. Take away the shin, it's yud nun. It's going to be 60. And hey is hey aleph. And it's going to be take away the hey from spell Moshe, left aleph. So gematria of 101. Guess how many verses are in the parsha of Tetzaveh, of the commandment to give the Kohen his beautiful adornment? Obviously, it's 101 verses because the whole parsha exudes with Moshe, even though it's talking to Aaron. Now, let's understand this point more deeply a second, because what happens here is that we said earlier there's an argument in the Gemara. Hashem says, the one opinion says, okay, Moshe said, send Aaron, Hashem got angry, but no negative response happened. The other opinion says, no, a negative response did happen. Moshe was going to be the Kohen, and now Hashem says to him, hello, Aaron achicha Levi, Aaron, your brother the Levi, meaning that he was supposed to be a Levi, now he'll be the Kohen. And it says in the verse later on, this continues, I know he knows how to speak. Okay? And then it says in the next verse, you will speak to him, the Santa as a dvarm befiv, you'll put the words in his mouth, and I will be with his mouth and with your mouth. And I'll show you what you will do. He will speak to the people. He'll be a mouth, and you will be you will be the officer who will take the idea. You will express it once, what Hashem said, and then Aaron will express it through his ability through speech. So did something change in the reality of the world here? I'd like to say yes. There was an actual big change in terms of the reality of the world. Let's understand this. First of all, Moshe is known to have a speech impediment. I almost said a peach impediment, which would be a worse speech impediment. Moshe is considered to have a speech impediment. What's his speech impediment? Okay, speak exactly right. And we understand that in a few different ways, but usually it's not the whole picture, because Moshe has to be shalom. You can't have a person who is the Navi, the Navi, and has a mum, he has a spiritual defect. It doesn't really make sense exactly. So what does it mean Moshe was not an ish devar, a man of speech? So we know there's a famous Gemara. It says that when before the baby is born, the child is the fetus is in the mother's womb, and as an angel teaches the child the whole Torah, and it has a light above its head. It sees from one end of the earth to the other. Wow. It understands everything. And then a time comes for the child to be born. The malach taps it on the mouth, and it forgets all of its Torah. Very strange Gemara. What does it mean? How does the child learn the whole Torah? What do you mean it has a light above its head? It says one end of the earth or other, and then why does it get hit in the mouth and it forgets it? What does that all mean? And why learn it if you're going to forget it? So the answer is like this. The body and soul have a unique interconnection. Okay? The soul, when it joins with the body fully, the soul is now limited within the confines of the body. Right? My real essence, my neshama, can only experience you and see you through the eyes of my physical eyes. So it's the deeper me, the eyes of my soul perceiving, but it can only perceive now through the eyes of the physical world. The body is, so to speak, trapped and limited in time and space once there's a connection. Before the child is born, the soul is not fully connected with the body, it's above it. And therefore it's able to see from one end of the earth to the other. Like if a person has, we hear about near-death experience, they see their soul, it's going, they see one place. What does it mean? Once the soul is not bound in the body, it's not limited by the confines of time and space. And so before the child is born, the soul is not fully attached and, so to speak, trapped in the body. And therefore, it's not limited. That's the light above its head and sees from one end of the earth to the other and learns everything, knows everything. When it comes time to be born, it says the angel hits it in the mouth. Well, what does that mean? I mean, like people, I know people have funny ways they say this Gemara over it. The angel slaps them in the face. It's like, take that. It's absurd. It's not that the angel's not a mobster. He's not beating up the baby. What does it mean he hits him in the mouth? What does that mean? The Maharal says that is the moment the child is given the power of speech. The power of speech means that the soul and body are now totally interlinked, because I can take my thoughts, my soul world, so to speak, and I can bring it out into the physical world through speech. That's what it means. And it's the physical world. That's why the word, a thing in the world, is a davar, and le daber davar is also speech. because there's physical things which I could do, and in a certain sense I might be doing things that might not reveal what my real intent is. But a speech, the concept is to take from the soul world, from the hidden world, and now bring it out as a davar, as a dibur, into the physical world through speech. So speech is the bridge between the soul and the body. That's why Adam's greatness is referred to in the famous Onkelos, and the translation is a Ruach Mamala, a speaking entity, because he's the combination of body and soul. So once the baby is given the ability to speak, it forgets its Torah, because now the soul is limited in the body. So why learn in the first place? Because now you go through life and you're not learning Torah for the first time, you're recovering your Torah. That's why I always say, people say, oh, that makes sense. I say, how do you know it makes sense? You didn't know it before. How do you know it's true? That's true. Yeah, that's right. How do you know? You never heard it before, but you did hear it before. It's a place deep inside, leaves erosion, leaves an imprint. And that imprint is the place where a person now, as they're going through life and they hear something, it reminds them of their unique Torah that they're returning to, their understanding, their soul. Literally, that's what it is. The Maharal says the reason why Moshe had a speech impediment because his soul was not fully attached to his body. What happened was Moshe was so elevated. He was this person who his soul was not fully trapped in the body. Like I heard a story once of Rav Shach, that was the Gadol Dor, the leader of the Jewish people, years ago. And there's a story when he was I guess he was a young bacher, young student, and he bought a watermelon. He was carrying the watermelon going to home, and he was walking. He was thinking and learning. He was thinking the Gemara and all the different questions he had in halacha. And he's traveling. He gets home, and his wife says, "What's with your arm?" He says, well, "What do you mean?" He looks, and the watermelon fell out. Like 3 blocks ago. He's been walking like this with the watermelon. He's walking with his arm around as if he's holding the watermelon. He's not. Now, okay, so people, make that image of the absent-minded professor. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a person who is so elevated. They're not in the world the way we are. That was Moshe's speech impediment. His speech impediment was that he was too elevated. Now, eventually, it says the Medrash says in the book of Devarim, and Moshe says, these are the Devarim, these are the words of Moshe. The Medrash says that he was healed, so to speak, that he was able to eventually be a person of speech. But I want to explain what that means. It doesn't mean he took his soul and brought it down to his body. It means he took his body and he elevated it to his soul. That which is really the ideas of how the ideas of the world to come, how the physical becomes elevated to become part of the spiritual. That's what Moshe did, and that's why like when he gets to his beginning of getting to the burning bush, it said, "I said take take your shoes off." The shoes, so to speak, is like the body. The soul is coming down like a continuum. The edge of the soul connects with the body. And Moshe is told, separate the body and stay in the soul. And then eventually Moshe is able to elevate his body to his soul level. And that's when the speech actually comes out perfect. But that was Moshe's issue in the beginning. Moshe is a person of truth. He brings a Torah from Har Sinai. He's above. Aaron is from below. He's bringing the people up. And that's what I'd like to claim is the change here. The change is with how the world was going to work. Hashem wanted Moshe to go. It seems that something changed here. Maybe Aaron was going to be Moshe's assistant anyway. We don't know that part changed. But we do know that Aaron's, according to one opinion in the Gemara, one thing that changed, Aaron became the Kohen, Moshe moved to the Levi. Now, what that means is that we could say there was going to be a different dynamic of the interaction between the ideal, the elevated truth, and the speech, the shalom, bringing it out in the world. There was going to be some other dynamic here. That Moshe's being the Kohen is not just, oh, okay, Moshe, you get to be the Kohen, yay. It's not that. It means that Moshe being the Kohen as the one who leads the Avodas Hashem meant that his process of elevating the human being to the level of emes was going to be the primary way the world would function. So I don't know exactly if Moshe didn't complain, if Aaron would have always been his mouthpiece. Maybe not. Maybe Moshe would have just said the words, and that would have been enough. That we don't know. I haven't seen anyone say that part changed. So it could be no, could be Moshe, maybe yes, maybe Moshe would have been the one saying the words, and Aaron would not have need to be mat'imit to put it in the way for people. Maybe not. It doesn't say, but we don't know that. So maybe it would have always been that way. But either way, we do know that the process would have been different. That Moshe being the Kohen would mean that his prime midah of the elevated sense of humanity would have been what was functioning. And that really is the deeper understanding of what's going on in Egypt right now. The deeper understanding of Egypt is, it says that Arizal says that the Dibor speech was in exile. What does that mean? It means that to take my mind, to take the higher elements of ourselves and to bring it out in the world is the place where human being becomes human. That's the thing. To speak words without the brain is called pitput. It's called a bird. It's just going on and on. It becomes annoying because it's not rooted in the what's called the moch, in the mind. The greatness of human being is to take the mind and to express it. That's the avodas Hashem. That's the service of Hashem, and that's how we're going to connect to Hashem ultimately. So in Egypt, we didn't have words. We had no way to connect to our root to bring it out. And the person who comes along to redeem us is a person who can't speak, but he can speak. His speech is the speech that is rooted in the higher part of the essence of what we are. And Moshe's question was, should it be this higher level of the person that's in the elevated state? And is a little bit outside this world, and the soul's got to come up to the body's got to come up to that soul, and that might be very tough for the Jewish people because not everyone's gonna function that way. Or should I bring it down to the people? Let Aaron bring it down to the people. And Hashem said, beautiful, beautiful, caring about the Jewish people, wonderful. But when Hashem said, no, this is the way I want it to be, and Moshe pushes, that crossed the line, and that seems to be, you have your own ideas. I told you 1 day, 2 days, fine, you want to argue, 7 days is the full cycle. You keep arguing, and then you're pushing your own ideas. Moshe, in the end, shows, no, I was doing it all L'Shem Shamayim, when he's willing to give his life up. But at this moment, something did change. At this moment, Aaron switches to become the Kohen, and Moshe switches to become the Levi. That's a change in this dynamic between the elevated state of truth of emes, which is the stamp, it's the signet. It can't come out in the world fully. It's just has a remnant of it. And shalom, which is going to be the primary way this world will function. That's exactly what happened. It happened here. It was locked in at this moment. As we said before, as the Meshech Chochmah says, Hillel is the Gilgal of Aaron, and that is the halacha. We bend the emes for the sake of shalom, the sake of peace. That is because it changed right now. Aaron is the Kohen. However, the Arizal says in the future, the halacha will follow Shammai. It'll follow the MS, because the world will elevate to the place it can handle it. And that's the point where there becomes no argument and no contest between Shalom and MS. In this world of Alma Shikra, this world of illusion, there's sometimes seemingly so that is the way the world will eventually be. That MS will win out over Shalom, but not because we're saying it's greater, because ultimately there'll be no conflict between Shalom and MS. In this world, of the world of Sheker, of lies, sometimes they come into conflict. In the end, the halacha follows Beit Shammai of truth, because truth will not be in contrast to Shalom. And that's this moment right now of Moshe and Aaron. The moment of taking speech, and from the elevated perspective or from the perspective that relates to everyone. And Moshe wanted Shalom to protect the Jewish people. Hashem said, I had a higher way to do it. And maybe we could have gotten there. That's also what it means that at this moment, there was the imprint that maybe Moshe would not lead them into the land of Israel. What that means is that if Moshe's system, it's only an imprint now, it wasn't sealed yet, but if Moshe's system would have maintained that he would have raised them all to MS, then he could have led them in, and then there would have been building base of Migdash and no more gullahs. But when they couldn't do it, they had to go into the lower system to work it out from below. That would take a longer time. And that's why it's the beginning of possibly Moshe, okay, we're going to go, if you can't elevate them to your system of MS, then it's going to take a longer process. That's what Moshe was hoping for. That's the slight place where he may have crossed the line, which he redeemed in the end. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, set it up that, yes, right now, Shalom is going to be winning over MS, but eventually the halacha is that it goes by the MS, which will be no longer in any form of conflict with Shalom. Peace. All the best.